Hey, so I'm continuing my advice for rookies tutorials about how to get better at bold action. This next advice is one that I see quite often because it's one of the things that I sort of profit on my channel here. People's um, sort of getting stuck on their list. People over tend to over focus on lists in my estimation. And I know that's just weird to regular viewers, veteran players who watch my videos, me saying that, because so much of my channel is about list building. I actually don't think that lists are that important when you're starting out. When you're just starting out, the list is not what makes you good at the game. Yes, there can be elements of it, but like we see so many people who've just bought their first few box sets and are like, how do I assemble my miniatures? What do I need? What is the optimized version of how to build this German Grenadier pack, right? And there isn't one. There is not one way to build it, and you'll find out over time what you like, what specific playstyles you like. It is not something you can start out with giving each individual person like a formula for how to build an optimized list, because that's not how this game works. It's just a little too complex for that. Um, and at the same time, everything sort of indicates that what really creates a good player when we get to the sharp end of bold action, the good end, where we compete for world championships and that stuff, what makes a good player at that point is not their lists as such, it is their skill set and how they match with that list. Yes, there is optimization and all of that, and you'll learn that once you go, but it's not something you start out with. What you start out with when you're a new player and you just want to get better at the game is you start out with the basic. The basic thing is you buy a bunch of miniatures, you assemble them, and then over time you figure out that you want to add more stuff. That is how you get better. You don't assemble everything and then try everything out. No, you try out some stuff, you make sure that you know how that works, and then you move on. So, for beginning players, it's not about your list. It's not about your lists. It is about you learning the rules, you learning the sequencing of what is important to move when, you learning the placement of your units, where does these units need to go, and you learning the missions. Missions, sequencing, placement, none of that, none of it has to do with your list. This is not 40k. We're not playing 40k with formulaic tables. This is way more complex, way more individualized, and the best thing you can do is to train yourself in that. Dive into it. Dive into the actual playing. You can get paralysis just staring at that list, and I've seen so many people do it because they send me their lists. They get paralysis just sitting there arguing with themselves. Do I take an LMG on this unit, or do I spend the 15 points on getting myself a chaplain? Oh, it's so difficult. What is best? Who cares? It's 15 points. Go and play the game. You get better at it by playing the game. When we get to the sharpest end, the place where I go to tournaments, to win those tournaments, to compete for world championships, all of that, then we can start about micro detailing optimization. But at the start, for rookies, not where you start. Not where you start at all. You get there over time, but that is not how you start the game. That is how you paralyze yourself with indecision paralysis, where you just sit and stare at your list again and again and again, and nothing will ever change that. No advice that I can give you, that other people can give you on the internet, will change that. So what you do when you're sitting there with your box and wanting to assemble your minis is you build a bit of everything. There are like 3 major things that you do with infantry. You build LMGs, light machine guns. You build SMGs, and you build riflemen. As long as you have a bunch of each of those, and you can argue the ratio, I would say a maximum of 1 LMG per 5 other stuff you have. Somewhere around that point, anyway. That's a good starting point, because that means you can have an LMG in each of your rifle sections. And then you can build 1 or 2 groups of SMG armed troops and try to work out how to use those. That's where you start. You work out how to use each type of unit. So, it's not really about your list. It's about you as a player and learning how to play the game. That is my advice for rookies. That is where you start. That is how you become better at the game. Right. See you next time. Cheers.